The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched upward like a massive cathedral built for giants. Light from 3 artificial suns streamed through crystal windows, illuminating thousands of alien representatives seated in curved tiers that rose hundreds of meters high. The chamber hummed with the translated whispers of 500 different species, all waiting for the unprecedented hearing to begin. Ambassador Ilara Reed stood alone on the central platform, a solitary human figure dwarfed by the immensity of the chamber. Her simple blue uniform contrasted sharply with the elaborate ceremonial garb worn by most council representatives. The gravity stabilizers beneath her feet subtly increased pressure, a small intimidation tactic the council used on newcomers. "Proceedings will now commence," announced High Arbiter Vox Thule, his translucent tentacles rippling with bioluminescent patterns. The ancient Morcadian's voice echoed throughout the chamber. "The petition of Earth for formal recognition and membership is before this council." Reed maintained perfect composure despite knowing that every movement, every expression was being analyzed by thousands of alien minds. Many species here had been spacefaring for millennia, before humans had even discovered fire. "The Galactic Council has existed for 12,000 years, Vox Thule continued, his voice carrying the weight of history. "We have overseen the peaceful development of this galaxy through careful management and judicious integration of emerging species. Humanity's request for full membership after merely 2 centuries of interstellar capability is unprecedented." A low rumble of agreement spread through the chamber. Reed could feel the hostility radiating from certain sections, particularly the Drothi delegation, whose scaled representatives watched her with naked contempt. General Krul of the Drothi Empire rose from his seat, his armored exoskeleton clanking as he pointed a clawed hand toward Reed. "Let us dispense with these formalities. Humans have violated quarantine protocols, developed forbidden technologies, and expanded beyond their assigned boundaries. They should be contained, not rewarded with membership." Reed remained silent, letting the accusations hang in the air. Her briefing had prepared her for this moment. The Drothi had been pushing for human containment for decades. "The human delegate may respond," Vox Thule stated, his tone suggesting he expected an emotional outburst. Reed stepped forward, activating the chamber's amplification field with a small gesture. "Honorable representatives of the Council, I thank you for considering Earth's petition. While General Krul's concerns are noted, they represent a fundamental misunderstanding of human development." She tapped her wrist device, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing Earth's technological advancement curve. "Humanity has not violated development protocols. We have simply innovated along paths your civilizations did not anticipate. The medical cures we provided during the Centauri plague saved billions of Council citizens. Our energy conversion technology has revitalized systems previously considered uninhabitable." The Tellurian representative, Ambassador Lorex, leaned forward. His crystalline body structure sparkled as he spoke. "No one questions the benefits humanity has brought. Ambassador Reed, what concerns many council members is the speed of your advancement and your unwillingness to share certain technological foundations." Reed nodded respectfully. "We understand these concerns. That is why Earth proposes a new category of membership, one that respects our independent development while ensuring transparency and cooperation." Murmurs spread through the chamber. "This proposal had not been anticipated. Impossible," shouted a representative from the galactic interior. "The council structure has remained unchanged for millennia. We cannot create special accommodations for one species." Reed's voice remained steady. "With respect, the council has created special accommodations for dozens of species. The Morcadians' atmospheric requirements, the Drothi territorial expansions, the Tellurian trade monopolies, all represent adaptations to the council structure." The chamber fell silent. Few had expected a human to be so well versed in council politics. Vox Thule's tentacles darkened slightly, a sign of irritation in his species. "What precisely does Earth propose, Ambassador?" "A mutual partnership," Reed replied. "Earth will share its medical and environmental technologies completely. In return, we ask for autonomous development rights within our current territories and representation on the Central Committee." The Central Committee, the inner circle that truly governed the galaxy. No emerging species had ever been granted a seat there. General Krul slammed his armored fist against his console. "This is absurd. Humans cannot possibly believe they deserve. The Council will deliberate on this proposal, Voxthul interrupted, silencing Cruel with a gesture. Ambassador Reed, you will await our decision. Reed bowed slightly. Of course, High Arbiter. However, I should inform the Council that my government has authorized me to activate Protocol Omega if our proposal is rejected. The phrase meant nothing to most representatives, but Reed noticed several of the more powerful delegates exchange concerned glances. Earth's intelligence services had done their work well. Protocol Omega? Voxthul repeated, his bioluminescence now pulsing rapidly. A contingency measure, Reed explained calmly. Earth has prepared for all possible outcomes of today's hearing. The implied threat hung in the air. No emerging species had ever dared to threaten the Council, if that was indeed what she was doing. Voxthul's voice hardened. The Council does not respond to threats, Ambassador. Nor does Earth make them, High Arbiter, Reed replied. We simply believe in preparation. Humanity has learned through bitter experience not to place all hope in a single outcome. The Council chamber, which moments before had been filled with dismissive murmurs, now fell into an uneasy silence. For the first time, many representatives began to consider that they might have underestimated the humans standing before them. The Council will recess for deliberation, Voxthul announced finally. Ambassador Reed, you will remain available. As Reed left the central platform, she could feel thousands of alien eyes tracking her movement. She had said what needed to be said. Now it was time to wait, and to prepare. Because Reed knew something the Council did not. Earth had no intention of accepting rejection. And Protocol Omega was far more than a simple contingency plan. It was the culmination of a century of secret preparation for this exact moment. If the Council chose to deny humanity its rightful place among the stars, they would soon discover just how great a mistake they had made. 3 standard days after Ambassador Reed's appearance before the Galactic Council, the massive chamber reconvened. The air felt heavier now, charged with tension as Reed once again stood on the central platform. She had received no communications during the Council's deliberations, a bad sign, according to Earth's diplomatic protocols. Voxthul's enormous form loomed over the assembly, his tentacles now displaying the formal patterns of judgment. Beside him stood the 7 members of the Central Committee, representatives of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. Their presence at a membership hearing was unprecedented. Ambassador Ilara Reed of Earth, Voxthul began, his voice echoing with finality. The Council has reached its decision. Reed stood perfectly still, her eyes focused on the High Arbiter. Earth's petition for membership is denied, Voxthul announced. A ripple of satisfaction moved through certain sections of the chamber, particularly among the Drothi representatives. Furthermore, Voxthul continued, the Council finds that humanity represents an unacceptable destabilizing influence. Your technological development has proceeded along concerning vectors. Your expansion threatens established boundaries. Your diplomacy, as evidenced by your implied threats during these proceedings, demonstrates immaturity. Reed's expression remained neutral as Voxthul outlined the Council's decision. Therefore, the following restrictions will be implemented immediately. All human colonies will be subject to permanent Council oversight. Earth itself will host a monitoring station. Human ships will submit to inspection at all transit points. Human technology development will proceed only under Council supervision. The restrictions were far harsher than even the worst projections from Earth's diplomatic corps. This wasn't just rejection, it was containment. These measures are not punitive, Voxthul added, though his tone suggested otherwise. They are necessary safeguards for galactic stability. In time, humanity may earn greater freedoms through demonstrated compliance. The chamber fell silent, waiting for Reed's response. Many expected outrage, perhaps even the activation of whatever Protocol Omega might entail. Instead, Reed simply nodded once. The Council's decision is noted, she said, her voice calm. She reached into her pocket and withdrew a small device that fit in her palm. Immediately, security drones positioned themselves around her, weapons ready. This is merely a communicator, Reed explained, showing it clearly to the assembly. I am authorized to communicate Earth's response directly to my government. Voxthul gestured for the security drones to stand down. Proceed, Ambassador, though I remind you that Earth has no choice but to accept these terms. Reed activated the device. Authentication read Epsilon 73, she spoke clearly. The Council's response is negative. Full restrictions imposed. Activate Protocol Omega. For a moment, nothing happened. Then display screens throughout the chamber began flashing with urgent notifications. Representatives checked their communication devices as confusion spread. "What is happening?" demanded Voxathul. A Tellurian diplomat shouted. "The human outposts, they're going dark." "Impossible," General Krull snarled. "We have monitoring stations. All communication with human colonies has ceased," confirmed another representative. Reed placed her diplomatic credentials on the small platform before her. "Humanity does not accept your terms," she stated simply. "As of this moment, Earth formally withdraws from all galactic treaties and agreements. We are recalling our citizens, our technology, and our resources." "You cannot simply walk away," Voxthul said, genuine shock replacing his previous arrogance. "That is exactly what we're doing," Reed replied. "You've made it clear we aren't welcome as equals, so we'll make our own way." New alerts flashed across the chamber's main display. Images showed Earth itself. Then the image flickered and disappeared. "What you're witnessing," Reed explained, "is the activation of our planetary shield system. Similar technology is now operating at all human settlements." "Such technology is impossible," declared one of the Central Committee members. "No civilization has developed planetary-scale shields." Reed smiled slightly. "Until now. This is an act of defiance against the Council's authority." Foxthul thundered, his tentacles flashing angry red. "No," Reed corrected him. "This is humanity choosing its own path. We offered cooperation. You demanded submission. We are simply exercising the third option, separation." The chamber erupted into chaos as more reports came in. Reed stood calmly in the center of the storm. "You should also know," she continued, raising her voice slightly, "that all human-developed medical protocols and technologies have been removed from galactic networks. The cures and treatments we've provided over the past century are no longer available." That announcement caused even greater consternation. Dozens of worlds had become dependent on human medical innovations. General Krull pushed his way to the front. "This is blackmail. The combined fleets of the Council will break your shields and force compliance." "You're welcome to try," Reed replied evenly. "But I should warn you, our shield technology is just one of many developments we've kept private. We hope to share them as equals. That opportunity has now passed." Foxthul slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor. "Ambassador Reed, I urge you to reconsider this reckless action. The consequences for Earth." "The consequences are already in motion, High Arbiter," Reed interrupted. "Not for Earth, but for the Council. You've become so accustomed to dictating terms that you've forgotten how to negotiate. You've become so focused on control that you've forgotten how to cooperate. That is your failure, not ours." As Reed turned to leave, the Tellurian representative called out, "Wait, what of the billions who rely on human medical technology? Would you condemn them to suffering?" Reed paused at the chamber's exit. "We've left complete medical databases on neutral worlds. The information is freely available, unlike your Council's carefully guarded technologies. The difference is you'll have to implement them yourselves rather than relying on us to do the work for you." With that, she walked out of the Council chamber, leaving behind a governing body that had stood unchallenged for 12,000 years, now facing its first genuine crisis. In orbit above the Council world, the small Earth diplomatic vessel activated its drive system, a system unlike any the Council monitoring stations had ever recorded, and vanished. Within 24 hours, every human colony, outpost, and vessel throughout the galaxy had similarly disappeared. Where thriving settlements of millions had stood, only undisturbed landscapes remained, as if humans had never been there at all. And in the Council chamber, the representatives of 500 species began to realize what they had done. They had pushed away the one civilization that might have revitalized their stagnant galactic order, all because they feared what they couldn't control. They had demanded humanity's submission and instead witnessed humanity's departure. And as the first reports of medical systems failing across dozens of worlds began to arrive, they started to understand just how badly they had miscalculated. 1 month after humanity's departure, the emergency council session had been ongoing for 7 straight days. The Grand Chamber, once a place of order and ceremony, now resembled a war room. Status reports from across the galaxy painted an increasingly grim picture. The Alarian respiratory treatment centers have completely failed, reported a harried Tellurian representative. Death rates are rising exponentially. Without the human medical protocols, we cannot synthesize the necessary compounds. Similar situations on 17 worlds in the Orion sector, added another delegate. The genetic stabilization treatments for the Drothi young require human biotech that we cannot replicate. High Arbiter Vox Thule, who had ruled the council with unwavering authority for centuries, now looked diminished. The bioluminescent patterns across his tentacles had faded to a dull pulse. What of the medical databases Ambassador Reed claimed they left behind? He asked. Director Fenn of the Science Directorate stepped forward. Once a minor voice in council proceedings, the current crisis had elevated her previously overlooked warnings about human potential. We've located the databases on 3 neutral worlds, she confirmed. The information is complete, but implementing it is proving challenging. Humanity didn't just give us treatments. They maintained the systems that delivered those treatments. We relied on their expertise without developing our own. And the military option? General Krull demanded. The once proud Drothi looked haggard, his scales dulled by stress. Reports indicated that nearly 30% of his species' young were now showing signs of genetic degradation. Admiral Niven, commander of the Council's primary fleet, shook his head. We've found no trace of Earth or any human colonies. Our best analysis suggests they've relocated their entire civilization to another region of space, possibly beyond our galaxy entirely. Impossible, muttered a Central Committee member. No species possesses such technology. Evidently humans do, Niven replied grimly. Our astronomical division has detected unusual energy patterns in 18 star systems, each one corresponding to a former human territory. The stars themselves show evidence of manipulation. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The ability to move entire star systems was beyond theoretical. It was supposed to be physically impossible. But why? Asked a younger representative from the Galactic Rim. Why maintain the pretense of seeking membership if they possessed such advanced technology? Why share medical innovations only to reclaim them when rejected? Into this uncomfortable silence walked Professor Varex, the Council's foremost xenopsychologist specializing in emerging species integration. His clearance had previously been revoked when he had advocated for human membership. They were testing us, Varex stated simply, walking to the center of the chamber uninvited. And we failed spectacularly. You overstep, Specialist Varex, warned Vox Thule, though with little of his former authority. Humanity's application was never about joining your hierarchy, Varex continued. It was about determining if cooperation was possible. Their technological sharing wasn't dependency creation. It was gift-giving, a fundamental human social concept. He gestured to the reports of spreading medical crises. Look at what's happening now. They didn't create these problems, they solved ones we already had. Their withdrawal simply returned us to our previous state, yet we act as though they've attacked us. They deliberately embedded themselves into crucial systems, objected Krull. No, Varex corrected. You embrace their solutions without understanding them, or developing your own alternatives. That was your choice, not their manipulation. The chamber's emergency communication system suddenly activated. The projected image showed a deep space monitoring station. Council members, reported the station commander. We've detected a signal originating from where Earth's position used to be. It appears to be an automated message. The message began playing without waiting for authorization. Ambassador Reed's face appeared, calm and resolute. To the representatives of the Galactic Council. By now you've realized that humanity has relocated rather than submit to your control. This was not a decision made in haste or anger. For decades, we've observed how your civilization treats emerging species. The exploitation, the deliberate stifling of advancement, the creation of dependencies. Reed paused, her expression softening slightly. We have left behind secure data caches on each world currently experiencing medical crises. These contain all necessary information to reproduce our treatments independently. The locations are attached to this message. Consider it our parting gift. Knowledge freely given rather than dependence maintained. Her expression hardened again. Humanity has relocated to a place beyond your reach, but not beyond your knowledge. When you are ready for genuine cooperation between equals, The attached quantum frequency will reach us. We will be watching your development, your choices, and your treatment of other emerging species. Perhaps in time we can try again." The message ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Verified data cache locations are indeed included, the station commander confirmed. Initial analysis suggests they contain complete medical protocols. Voxthul, who had ruled the council for centuries with unwavering authority, suddenly looked ancient and diminished. "They give us the means to save ourselves even as they depart," he said quietly. "And they leave open the possibility of future contact. A possibility that depends entirely on us proving worthy of it," Varix pointed out. "I suggest you consider what that worthiness might entail." The following weeks brought painful but necessary changes to the Galactic Council. The crisis caused by humanity's departure had exposed fundamental flaws in the galactic order. Worlds that had been dependent on human medical technology struggled to implement their own versions. Species that had relied on human engineering found themselves forced to innovate for the first time in generations. Most significantly, the Council itself began to reform. The strict hierarchy that had placed emerging species under the control of established powers was dismantled. The knowledge-sharing restrictions that had kept advanced technology in the hands of a few were lifted. The Central Committee, which had ruled from the shadows for millennia, was dissolved in favor of a more representative system. As Professor Varix had suggested, the galaxy began preparing itself to be worthy of humanity's return, not through military might or political dominance, but through the values humans had demonstrated: innovation, cooperation, and respect for independence. And in distant observatories across the galaxy, astronomers kept watch on unusual stellar formations at the edge of the Milky Way. 18 stars arranged in a perfect geometric pattern that had never existed before, as if humanity had created its own constellation as a reminder of its presence. The galaxy that had once dismissed humans as an upstart species now found itself transformed by their absence. And the quantum frequency left in Ambassador Reed's final message remained active, waiting for the day when the reformed council would be ready to reach out, not as masters, but as equals. 5 standard years passed. The galaxy had changed in fundamental ways since humanity's departure. Where once the Galactic Council ruled through control and hierarchy, now stood the Intergalactic Assembly, a governing body built on principles of cooperation and mutual advancement. On the former council homeworld, Voxthul stood in the newly constructed Hall of Voices, a vast chamber designed to ensure that even the smallest, newest spacefaring civilizations could be heard. The former High Arbiter had relinquished most of his authority, becoming instead a historian, documenting the transformation sparked by humanity's exit. "It remains our greatest lesson," he told the gathered representatives of 93 species, the original 57 council members and 36 emerging civilizations that would previously have been kept in probationary status for centuries. "We encountered a civilization that could have been our greatest ally, and instead, we treated them as we had treated all rapidly developing species, as threats to be contained." Professor Varix, now elevated to Director of Interspecies Relations, stepped forward. "The human departure forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our civilization. We had become stagnant, controlling, fearful of change. Our response to innovation was to regulate it rather than embrace it." The main display activated, showing astronomical data from observatories throughout the galaxy. 18 distinct points of light were highlighted, the unusual stellar formation at the galaxy's edge that had come to be known as the human constellation. "Believe we've made contact," announced Director Fenn of the Reformed Science Directorate. "For the past month, we've been transmitting evidence of our reforms on the quantum frequency provided in Ambassador Reed's final message. Yesterday, we detected a response. A hush fell over the assembly. They've acknowledged our transmission," Fenn continued, "and they've provided coordinates for a meeting location, a previously uncharted system near the galactic core." "Who will represent us?" asked one of the representatives from a newly included species. Voxthul looked around the chamber. "I believe that decision should reflect our new principles. Not the oldest or most powerful among us, but those who best embody the values we hope to demonstrate." The assembly selected 3 representatives: a young Tellurian scientist who had pioneered the implementation of human medical technologies without creating new dependencies. A diplomat from a newly spacefaring species who brought fresh perspectives untainted by old hierarchies. And surprisingly, Admiral Niven, who had transformed from a military commander into an advocate for peaceful cooperation. Their journey to the coordinates took 17 days, aboard the fastest vessel in the Assembly's fleet. What they found there defied all expectations. At the designated coordinates floated a massive structure, not a ship or station, but what appeared to be a piece of Earth itself, a floating continent complete with oceans, mountains, and gleaming cities, all enclosed within an enormous transparent dome. "Welcome to New Terra Outpost," came a transmission as they approached. "Please proceed to the indicated docking bay." The landing platform extended out from the massive structure, welcoming the assembly vessel. As the three representatives disembarked, they were met not by Ambassador Reed, but by a young woman who introduced herself as Director Maya Torres. "On behalf of the Human Confederation, I welcome representatives of the Intergalactic Assembly," she said warmly. "We have been monitoring your progress with great interest." Admiral Niven stepped forward. "Director Torres, we are grateful for this opportunity. Much has changed since our misunderstanding." "So we've observed," Torres replied, leading them toward a transport vehicle. "Your reorganization, your inclusion of developing species, your efforts to implement our medical technologies independently rather than creating new dependencies. These are promising developments." As they traveled, the representatives marveled at the environment around them. The dome contained a perfect reproduction of Earth's ecosystem, forests, lakes, even wildlife, yet with cities and technology seamlessly integrated. "This outpost seems remarkably developed for having been established so recently," noted the Tellurian scientist. Torres smiled. "For us, considerably more time has passed." Before they could question her meaning, the transport arrived at their destination, a stunning building of crystal and light that served as the outpost's diplomatic center. Inside, they were led to a conference room with a breathtaking view of both the enclosed Earth landscape and the stars beyond. There, waiting for them, was Ambassador Alara Reed. She looked older than when she had stood before the council, with streaks of gray in her hair, but her eyes remained as sharp and resolute as ever. "Welcome," Reed greeted them. "It has been a long time, though perhaps longer for us than for you." "You speak as if time has passed differently," said the young diplomat cautiously. Reed nodded. "One of the discoveries we made during our stellar relocation process was that space-time flows differently when manipulated at a certain quantum level. For you, it has been 5 years. For humanity, our experience has been considerably longer." "How much longer?" asked Niven. "Nearly 3 decades," Reed replied. "Time enough to build not just outposts, but a new civilization, and to make discoveries beyond what we had imagined possible." The implications stunned the representatives into silence. Finally, the Tellurian scientist found her voice. "Is that why you've contacted us now? To share these discoveries?" "Partially," Reed acknowledged. "But more importantly, we wanted to see if the changes in your society represented genuine evolution or merely a temporary response to crisis." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room, showing images that seemed impossible. Vast structures spanning the space between stars, worlds transformed from barren rock to vibrant ecosystems, and most startling of all, what appeared to be a bridge between galaxies. "What you're seeing is the intergalactic concordate," Reed explained. "In our time away, humanity has made contact with civilizations in neighboring galaxies, some far more advanced than either of us, some just beginning their journey to the stars. You've established an intergalactic civilization in what for us has been only 5 years?" Fox Thule asked, unable to conceal his astonishment. "The advantages of understanding how to manipulate space-time," Reed said with a slight smile. "But we didn't come here to intimidate or impress you. We came because we believe the Assembly might be ready to join this larger community." "As what?" asked the young diplomat cautiously. "Subjects? Protectorates? As equals," Reed replied firmly. "That's what we wanted from the beginning. Not dominance, not submission, but partnership. The Concordate isn't a hierarchy. It's a genuine community of diverse civilizations, each contributing its unique perspectives and abilities. She leaned forward, her expression earnest. We did not leave to punish the galaxy. We left because we saw a different path forward. Not just for humanity, but potentially for all civilizations ready to transcend their limitations. The question before you now is whether your assembly wishes to join this broader community. The three representatives exchanged glances, the weight of the moment not lost on any of them. This decision would reshape the future of not just their own civilizations, but potentially the galaxy itself. We would need to consult with the full assembly, Niven said finally. Of course, Reed agreed. This isn't a decision to be made hastily or by a few individuals. That was the old council's way, not yours. As the meeting concluded and the representatives prepared to return with this unprecedented proposal, Reed had one final message. When humanity walked away, it wasn't an ending but a beginning, she told them. We needed to find our own path just as your civilizations needed to find yours. Now those paths have the opportunity to converge again, not through force or necessity, but through choice. The representatives departed New Terra, outpost with more than just a proposal for the assembly. They carried with them the realization that humanity's departure had been the catalyst for the galaxy's transformation. What had seemed like abandonment had actually been the greatest gift possible, the freedom to evolve beyond millennia of stagnation. And as their ship departed, they could see other vessels arriving at the outpost, ships of designs they had never encountered before, from civilizations beyond their galaxy. The universe, it seemed, was far larger and more wondrous than they had ever imagined. The observation platform orbiting the massive space-time anchor at the galaxy's edge offered a spectacular view of what was about to occur. Representatives from over 200 species from the Milky Way had gathered to witness the event, the formal connection of their galaxy to the intergalactic Concordat. Admiral Niven, now well into his elder years, stood beside Voxthul. They had both dedicated the latter parts of their lives to preparing their civilization for this moment. I never thought I would live to see this day, Niven admitted, watching as the massive engineering structures built with technology humanity had shared aligned themselves with the fabric of space-time itself. Few of us did, Voxthul agreed. Our species measure progress in millennia, not decades. Yet here we are, about to join a community that spans galaxies, all because we once failed to recognize what humanity truly represented. Director Varix joined them, data tablet in hand. The final preparations are complete. Earth's representatives will arrive momentarily to activate the connection. The platform hummed with anticipation as a vessel appeared, elegant in its simplicity yet radiating technological sophistication, far beyond anything the assembly had achieved, even with human assistance. From the vessel emerged a team of humans, led by a woman who introduced herself as Admiral Lyra Okafor, Earth's representative to the Concordat. On behalf of humanity and the 23 galaxies currently united in the Concordat, I welcome the Milky Way Assembly, she announced, her voice carrying easily through the space. Today marks the completion of a journey that began with misunderstanding and separation, but evolved into mutual respect and cooperation. Okafor approached the control interface, but paused to address the gathered representatives directly. Some of you have asked why humanity chose to walk away rather than fight for our place in this galaxy. The answer is simple. We recognize that true advancement doesn't come from conquering or controlling, but from understanding when to step back and allow others to find their own path. She gestured toward the transformed assembly. Look at what you've built in our absence. Not an empire or a hierarchy, but a genuine community of diverse civilizations. You've incorporated the knowledge we left behind while developing your own innovations. You've welcomed emerging species as partners rather than subjects. We had good teachers, Voxthul acknowledged. Even in your absence. Okafor smiled. The lesson wasn't in our departure but in what we left behind, the opportunity to choose a different path. She turned back to the control interface, placing her hand upon it. The massive structures surrounding the platform began to glow with energy, space itself seeming to fold and ripple around them. What you're about to witness is not merely a technological achievement, Okafor explained as the process began.
It's the physical manifestation of a philosophical principle, that boundaries between civilizations,
even between galaxies, exist only as long as we choose to maintain them. The energy intensified, and suddenly space split open before them, not violently but like a deliberate parting of a veil. Through the opening, they could see another section of the universe entirely, another galaxy wheeling majestically in the void. The Andromeda Galaxy, Okafor announced, the first we contacted after leaving the Milky Way. They will be your immediate neighbors in the Concordate network. Beings unlike any the Assembly representatives had ever encountered appeared. On the other side of the connection, raising appendages in greeting. This gateway will remain permanently open, Okafor continued. Trade, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation, all will flow freely between our galaxies. And this is just the beginning. 22 other gateways connect to civilizations across the universe, some so different from us that it took years just to establish basic communication. As representatives began crossing to meet their Andromedan counterparts, Admiral Niven found himself standing alone with Okafor. There is one question that has haunted me for decades, the old admiral admitted. Did humanity already possess these incredible technologies when you first contacted our council? Was your petition for membership merely a test we failed? Okafor considered the question carefully. The truth is more nuanced, Admiral. We had theories, prototypes, possibilities, but not certainty. Your rejection accelerated our development out of necessity. In a way, your council's decision was the catalyst that pushed humanity to achieve what might otherwise have taken centuries. So our greatest failure ultimately led to your greatest advancement. Niven mused. And to yours, Okafor reminded him, gesturing to the transformed assembly and the open gateway. Sometimes walking away from one path is necessary to discover another. Humanity needed to leave to become what we are now, and perhaps the galaxy needed our absence to become what it is today. The following month saw an explosion of exchange and development as the Milky Way integrated into the Concordate. Technologies that would have taken millennia to develop independently were now freely shared. Cultural works from 23 galaxies flowed into Milky Way worlds, broadening perspectives that had been limited for too long. Scientific cooperation between species that had never known of each other's existence led to breakthroughs that transformed understanding of the universe itself. On Earth, the original Earth, which had remained at its new location at the center of the human constellation, a special event was taking place. The first diplomatic delegation from the Reformed Assembly was visiting humanity's homeworld, welcomed not as supplicants or competitors but as genuine partners. Ambassador Reed, now serving in an honorary capacity after decades of service, led the delegation through gardens that blended plants from 100 worlds across multiple galaxies. Above them, the night sky showed stars in patterns unfamiliar to those from the Milky Way, the view from humanity's new galactic home. "Do you ever regret leaving?" asked one of the younger delegates, a representative from a species that had only achieved spaceflight after humanity's departure. Reed looked up at the alien constellations thoughtfully. "Not regret, no. But I sometimes wonder about the path not taken. If the Council had accepted our membership, would we all have achieved this level of advancement? Or would we have been constrained by old structures, old thinking? You could have fought," the delegate suggested. "With the technology you possessed, you could have forced the Council to accept you." Reed shook her head. "That would have violated everything we believed in. Force creates resistance, not cooperation. By walking away, we allowed both them and us the freedom to evolve beyond what either civilization had been." As the delegation continued their tour, Reed found herself standing beside Vox Thule, who had joined the diplomatic mission despite his advanced age. "I failed to understand your species when it mattered most," the ancient Morcadian said quietly. "I saw your advancement as a threat rather than an opportunity." "And now?" Reed asked. "Now I understand what you were trying to teach us," Vox Thule replied. "That true strength isn't found in control but in connection. That progress comes not from maintaining hierarchies but from embracing change." Reed smiled. "Then perhaps our walking away served its purpose after all." As they stood together, the human who had walked out of the council chamber and the arbiter who had forced that choice, they watched representatives from dozens of galaxies mingling in the Earth Garden, sharing ideas and building connections that would span not just space but time itself. The human expression, "absence makes the heart grow fonder," had proven true on a cosmic scale. In humanity's departure, the galaxy had found its future. In the void they left behind, a new understanding had taken root. And in their return, not as supplicants or conquerors, but as equals offering connection to something larger, the cycle was complete. Humanity had walked away. The galaxy had regretted it, but both had found their way back to each other, transformed by the journey. And as the stars of multiple galaxies shone down upon the gathering, it became clear that the true power of any civilization lay not in its ability to control others, but in its courage to chart its own course, even if that meant walking away, knowing that true connections, when they eventually formed, would be all the stronger for having been freely chosen.